Hi there. So maybe you're wondering if you can still get pregnant if your tubes are blocked. Maybe you have one blocked tube or both tubes are blocked, or you've been told that your tubes may be blocked, but you're not really sure 100% because the tests that they do to see if your tubes are open, sometimes they can change, or it's not necessarily clear what the results are, and it's just suspected that the tubes may be blocked or that they're constricted, and so they're not totally blocked, but the flow is constricted, the opening is constricted. So it's, obviously a really important question to know whether you're still able to get pregnant naturally with blocked tubes, or if it's possible to have your tubes become unblocked naturally, not having any surgery, because they usually can't do surgery to unblock tubes, or if they can, it's pretty risky, and so they often don't try it. It's not a simple surgery because the tubes are so delicate and so small, so it's difficult for them to be able to get in there and unblock them. Sometimes when you have the procedure, the HSG, to see if your tubes are blocked or not, sometimes that can help flush the tubes out if there may be any blockage just from some old tissue in there, but sometimes that's just not enough. And obviously your tubes need to be open for you to be able to get pregnant naturally, for the sperm to be able to swim up there and fertilize your egg at the time of ovulation. So I get this question a lot. Is it possible, using my program, Fertility Activation Method, is it possible for me to unblock my tubes naturally? Can I still get pregnant if I've been told I have blocked tubes? Questions like this, they come in all the time. So what I usually answer is it may be possible to unblock your tubes naturally, but it really depends on the cause of the blockage, because it can be, there are many different things that can lead to blocked tubes, and you may have more than one of these issues that's leading to a blocked tube. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the different types of blocked tubes. For one thing, your tubes may be blocked because of fluid rather than something solid, rather than scar tissue or old tissue, or it may be blocked from some fluid backup. You may also have some fluids that are pooling in the uterus, and doctors will often attribute, they may not be able to, they may recommend that you don't do any IVF until you've had your tubes. If you have a tube that's got some fluid in it and then the fluid is going into the uterus, then that can be an issue with implantation. So some of the reproductive endocrinologists will recommend that you actually have your tubes cut and tied off so that the fluid is not backflowing into the uterus and preventing implantation of a fertilized embryo. But obviously that's a really big decision to make for women, and most women don't really like the idea of cutting their tubes, because then it can very clearly, they're not going to be able to get pregnant naturally. It just eliminates that possibility altogether. But anyways, you can have fluids that are in your uterus and in your tubes that are blocking the opening so that sperm isn't able to swim through there. And that is a very different cause of a blocked tube than, say, having scar tissue. Another thing that can constrict the available flow through your tubes is just spasms. So you might have just spasming of the tubes or cramping, and sometimes this can happen during the procedure, during the HSG, when they're testing to see if your tubes are open. Your body may just react and be cramping up, and the tubes may go into a spasm, and so then the tube could look like it's blocked, but it may just be temporarily blocked because the tube is in spasm. But it's still an issue if your tubes may be often in spasm. This could be because maybe you're really tense and stressed out, and there's just a lot of tension throughout your body. Maybe there's a lot of muscle tension in your pelvic area that's actually pulling on your tubes and misaligning them, or misaligning your uterus and misaligning your ovaries, so that your fallopian tubes are kind of twisted or constricted that way. And with that extra tension on the tubes, they might be constricted as well. So addressing that issue would be very different. That would be more about relaxing your body altogether and getting better blood circulation in there, and just circulation in general, for the area to be relaxed, relaxing the muscles, the tendons in your pelvic area, and so on and so forth, so that your reproductive organs can be in better alignment and there isn't that constriction that's blocking the flow. Whereas if there's residual fluid buildup, this is often due to weak digestive energy. It can also be due to what we call like a weak warming energy in the body. So if you feel cold a lot, or if your hands and feet are cold, so then when you're eating food, and especially if you're eating food that's difficult to digest, or cold foods, or a lot of sugar or greasy foods and so forth, this can cause a buildup of residual fluids in the body. And then on top of that, if your body runs cold, then it doesn't have the warmth it needs to evaporate those residual fluids. And when we have excessive fluids in the body, they can manifest any part of your body. You might have excessive amounts of phlegm in your lungs, or you may have achy joints because there's fluids and dampness in your joints, or you may have fluids in your reproductive organs. So that is a different situation than having spasming and that kind of constriction of the fallopian tubes. Another issue could be just having a lot of stagnant old blood and tissue. So that's and it may be stuck in the tubes, and it's not really hard tissue, but it's just stagnant. It's just blood that hasn't thoroughly, it's just like old blood and old tissue that's stuck there and blocking the flow, but it's not necessarily turned into scar tissue where it's adhering to your fallopian tubes. So that's a different situation that can be caused from lack of circulation. It can be caused from not having enough blood, as we would say in Chinese medicine, like a blood deficiency, so that, when a river runs dry, you're going to have pooling of water in some areas, little pockets of stagnant water, because there isn't that flow, that rushing of a nice full river. Same thing happens when we don't have enough healthy, nourishing blood. And like if you were to have a thin uterine lining, or really like periods and dry skin, dry eye, this would be a sign of not having enough of, blood flow. Or if there's, again, a lot of constriction. So sometimes stuck old blood goes hand in hand with having a lot of tension and constriction, or misaligned reproductive organs, because it's difficult for that flow to keep moving because of the tension. So oftentimes these go hand in hand. So if you have, like a lot of clots in your period, or dark flow, then this would be more of a sign of having stagnant blood. And if you have that stagnant blood and tissue in your fallopian tubes, it can cause a blockage so that the sperm can't get through and fertilize. But this can be addressed as well. The most difficult issue, the most difficult cause of blocked tubes would be scar tissue. And this can often be in the case of, if you've got endometriosis. And, that you have this stagnant blood, but it's gotten pretty hard and inflamed. And so it's adhered to different areas of your reproductive organs. And if it's adhered to the tubes so that there's no flow and they're blocked, that's a little bit more difficult to address. In some cases, surgery can be performed, but not all the time. And scar tissue is a little bit harder to break down and remove from the area. Whereas if it's just old residual blood, then that can be flushed out. So you can see that there's different reasons why you may have blocked tubes. In my program, Fertility Activation Method, I do a few things to help out if there's any kind of blockages in the reproductive organs, including the tubes. One is I teach women how to understand what may be the cause of their blocked tubes. Is it dampness? Is it weak digestive energy? Is it stuck blood? Is it lack of circulation? Is it body tension and spasming? And depending on what your situation is, the tools in my program can help address those specific issues so that you can support your body in opening the tubes, because it is possible in some cases, but not all cases. So there is no black and white issue. But through my program and the tools that I teach, you can get a better idea of what you think is going on with your specific body, because your body is going to be totally different than another woman who has blocked tubes. And you can learn how to support your body so that if your blocked tubes are caused by residual fluids, so you can support your digestion, and you can do things to get rid of those fluids, drain those fluids, and prevent the fluids from accumulating again, and circulate that out of there. Or if you're having a lot of spasming, or if you're having stuck blood, there are tools that you can use to resolve those issues and improve the health of your reproductive organs in general, let alone help your body to unblock those tubes. So what I would suggest, if you're interested in learning more, would be to sign up for my free masterclass. You can sign up in the link above this video. And in that masterclass, my #1 fertility secret to getting pregnant without IVF or drugs, I teach you the process that I take my clients through to support themselves holistically so that they can get pregnant naturally, or even with the help of fertility treatment. A lot of my clients are actually, want to make their fertility treatment more successful, and so they use my program for that. So you can use it whether you are doing IVF or not. But I will teach you in this masterclass sort of my 4-step method that has been proven, where women have gotten amazing results with it, to understand what's going on specifically with their body, and how can they support their body to get pregnant, because everybody's different, and how you can address these root symptoms, or the root cause of the symptoms. So what is the root cause of your blocked tubes? The dampness, or the constriction, the stuck blood. And from there, you can bring your body into a state of fertility, because your body wants to get pregnant. That's what it knows, what it's born to do, and what it naturally is inclined to do. It just needs the support and the tools, the resources for it to come into balance, so that you can be fertile and get pregnant and hold your little baby in your arms. So I welcome you to please join me for that free masterclass. Again, you can sign up in the link above this video, and I hope to see you there. Bye-bye.